Plenty of showers around, but there'll also be some fine weather to be had. It's all about the timing. Now, these weather fronts are timing things beautifully this evening, bringing rain in for Friday night across most areas. Parts of the east still dry right now, but the rain will creep its way eventually into eastern Scotland and eastern England. It's nothing too heavy, but it's going to be a much milder night compared to last night when we got down to -5 tonight. Many towns and cities holding in double digits, some places staying in the teens. So it won't be cold first thing, but it will be pretty grey, drab, dank, drizzly first thing on Saturday morning. The main area of rain will be heading its way out into the North Sea. It's going to not reach Shetland until tomorrow morning, but once it arrives here, it may well linger. Elsewhere, the rain will be moving away from Northern Ireland, so something a bit brighter, at least for a time, but showers will move in here following behind this main zone of rain. Also looking a little drier across Wales and southwest England, a soggy start for East Anglia and the southeast. But again, that rain will be moving out into the North Sea, so generally through the day, it's going to get drier during the morning and eventually might even brighten up. Parts of northeast England, East Midlands, parts of East Wales may well see some decent spells of sunshine. It could just spark one or two heavy showers over East Anglia and the southeast, particularly northeast Scotland and Northern Ireland, but they'll be very hit and miss. Many places avoiding those, but more showers always come into western areas where it will be cooler. But in the east, in the sunshine, quite warm, quite humid, could get to 21, maybe even 22 Celsius. A fresher feel for Sunday, gusty day across northern areas, particularly in western Scotland. Really blustery here with lots of showers, but elsewhere, not too many showers. And much of the Midlands, eastern and southern England looking dry and fine. It'll be breezy, it will feel fresher, but temperatures closer to average with maybe getting up to 20 or 21.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show, he's back. We've got Matthew Stadlen. Here we're going head-to-head with Chloe Dobbs. We've got barber and hairdresser JP Wyndham and Frank Sinatra tribute act David Allison. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening, it's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Just to bring you up to date with some breaking news this evening, at least 12 people have been injured in what's being described as a stabbing attack at a German railway station. Police have declared a major incident after the attack at Hamburg Central Station at 6 p.m. local time. 3 victims are in a critical condition, 3 others are seriously injured, and 6 people have sustained minor injuries, Bild are reporting, saying that the motive for the attack was unclear so far. A suspect has been arrested. There is currently a major police operation in Hamburg. Police have said in a statement, "We're investigating the background and will provide further information shortly." Tottenham's Europa League heroes are being serenaded by thousands of fans as the club's open-top bus parade started in Edmonton Green and is continuing this evening. 2 days after Spurs won 1-0 against Manchester United, the players are celebrating an end to a 17-year trophy drought. An estimated 150,000 fans were expected to line the streets. And President Donald Trump says he's recommending imposing 50% tariffs on goods from the European Union being imported to the United States starting on the 1st of June. Our discussions with Brussels are going nowhere, he said in a post on social media. The announcement marks an escalation of Trump's trade war with the EU, which currently has a 10% tariff on all goods being brought into America. The EU Commission declined to comment, saying it would wait for a phone call between the EU trade chief and his US counterpart to take place later today. The president also threatened to impose a 25% import tax on iPhones not manufactured in America. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Lee.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. And on the show tonight, he's back. GB News favourite Matthew Stadlen. He's our left in the corner, and political commentator Chloe Dobbs. Welcome to the show once again, Chloe. It's going to be a feisty affair tonight. But this week, Lucy Connolly, we've all been following this case. She went back to a court. She appealed. The decision was upheld, so she's got to, carry out their full jail sentence. Yes, she was found guilty. Yes, she broke the law, Matthew. Was it a bit harsh, though, to send her to prison?
So I've thought a lot about this, and instinctively it feels and felt to me that the sentence was quite harsh. And of course, because we learn more about her family circumstances, because there's so much scrutiny of her case, as with almost everyone who goes to prison, there's a real family fallout. The family members suffer as a consequence of their mother or father or husband or wife and so forth going to prison. So, of course, on a human level, I have empathy for that. I have empathy for her family. The question to my mind is, did she intend, and I've read the judgment, I don't know whether you've read the judgment, the Court of Appeal judgment, it's a 13-page judgment, and I recommend everyone who wants to comment or think about this case Googles it and reads it. And it is difficult, and it's about the law, of course. The question to my mind is, did she intend for asylum seeker hotels to be burned down? And we know, of course, that an asylum seeker hotel was set alight. The property was set alight, which is just beyond horrific. It was a day that shamed our country. I'm not convinced, rereading her tweet, that she actually wanted that to happen. And I'm partly not convinced about it because she said take the treacherous government and politicians with them. Did she want politicians to be murdered? I personally think she didn't. And therefore, should she be in prison for 31 months for what might be interpreted as a vile, disgusting, in my view, racist tweet, but a tweet that perhaps was rhetorical? That, for me, is at the heart of it. The law is quite complicated and difficult. For me, it's probably a bit too harsh. But one final thought. Ethnic minority families, and not just ethnic minority families, up and down the country were living in absolute terror during those days of rioting that followed. And we can't ever have that again. And part of the point of punishment is deterrence. We cannot have people putting out on social media, which is in the public domain, and people, including all of us, have to take responsibility for what we say. We cannot have people saying, for all I care, burn down the asylum seekers, because these are real human beings. And if you put that stuff out, you risk very real-world consequences.
Just last year, Chloe, I had somebody threaten me on a death threat on Twitter. And it was the authorities in Parliament that highlighted it to me. So it was reported to the Metropolitan Police. Some lunatic, some nutter was going to come and find me and do me in. He got a 50 quid fine and had to write a letter of apology to me. So is this a case of two-tier justice?
I mean, this is one of the most blatant cases of two-tier justice that I have ever seen. I mean, I personally don't think that she should have spent a single day in prison. And it sounds like what the threat that you received was probably far worse than what Lucy Connolly did. Now, her tweet, it was disgusting. It was not very nice. But this was an angry outburst, if you ask me. This is someone who is diagnosed with PTSD after she very sadly lost a 19-month-old child because of a mistake on the NHS. That's extremely traumatizing. And she's a mother of a beautiful, I think, 12-year-old little girl. You can imagine that if you see that 3 beautiful, innocent little girls have been murdered, that you would be furious. And shortly after seeing that news, she put up this tweet. It wasn't very nice, but her PTSD was triggered. She then went out, took the dogs for a walk, and after a few hours came back and realised that was a bad thing to say, and she deleted it. And that post went out well before there was any rioting. And then when the rioting did start, she put out tweets condemning rioting and telling people that they should not be involved in such a thing. So I do not think that she deserves to be in prison. I think she made an honest mistake. I think also...
So what do you mean honest mistake, Chloe? Would you, and I'm not sure, by the way, that the evidence suggests that PTSD, that I think was diagnosed in the past, led to this tweet. She's an intelligent woman. And say that it's an honest mistake to say that asylum seeker hotels should be burned down. I'm sorry, if you are triggered by that and her personal circumstances are deeply and profoundly tragic, you don't call for violence against people who've got nothing to do with the horrific crimes that were carried out in Southport. Chloe. What you might do is you might express empathy and sympathy for the families of the murdered children and indeed the injured children.
And I think that putting up a tweet expressing sympathy for the families of those who had their young children very sadly murdered would have been the nice, rational, logical thing to do. She clearly was not in a rational, logical state of mind. Now, I highly doubt that I would ever be driven to a position where I would put out a tweet like Lucy Connolly put out. I will repeat, I think that was a disgusting, hateful tweet. But I think that she has gone through a very difficult situation. What she did was wrong. And maybe you think she should spend some time in prison, but 31 months? And also, we've just had more news out that there's more crisis going on in the prisons. The spaces are going to be filled up really, really soon. We need to do more early releases. Why isn't Lucy Connolly top priority to be let out? They'll probably let out someone far more dangerous.
Let me just
instead
be clear
of her.
Matthew, to be honest, mate, these are the sort of sentences we expect to be doled out in countries in South America for people who, who live under oppressive regimes, who say something or demonstrate. They get locked up forever.
Let's deal with this on its merits. As I've said, if it was a rhetorical outburst, then I think I think that the sentence was harsh. If she actually intended, or if it could reasonably be interpreted by some of the 310,000 people who saw that tweet before it was deleted, if it could have been reasonably interpreted as a call to violence and to murder, then of course you need a harsh punishment. And part of it, as I say, is deterrence. We cannot live in a country where people are exhorting other people to murder. I believe in free speech, Lee. I believe in free speech. But part of the law of the land involves the criminalisation
We're living in a country
incitement
now
to murder.
where somebody makes a tweet or a Facebook post and they go to jail. Young men in London are caught with knives and machetes and they get a slap on the wrist. This is wrong, Chloe. However you look at it, it's just totally wrong.
It is absolutely wrong, and I think that her tweet was. I think it was deeply, deeply offensive and deeply wrong.
Is a tweet,
but
Chloe,
I think
is a tweet. Let me just come back to this. Is a tweet more dangerous than a young man walking around London with a machete or a knife?
absolutely not.
But it depends, doesn't it, Lee? If a tweet...
No, it doesn't depend.
Let me explain to you. Let me explain
Matt.
to you why, OK? Because you've got to be crystal clear. Two things can be true at once. People who walk around the streets of London, where I have a young family, with knives, should get very heavily punished, in my view.
Yeah.
Should people who encourage the burning down of asylum hotels with human beings in it, who are just as valuable human beings as you, me, Chloe and everyone watching, should they be held to account?
Yes, they should.
For incitement to murder? Of course they should.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Chloe?
I think the difficulty in Lucy Connolly's case is that she pleaded guilty, and this is one thing that has led to her appeal not being accepted. I highly doubt that she is a horribly racist individual.
Well, hang on.
If
you've read the Court of Appeal judgment, as I understand it, she looked after, as a child carer, I think, people from different races and people whose families, I think, spoke very highly of her. I'm not for a second saying that this is someone who hasn't done very good things in her life. But it is also true that I think 4 days before the horrific killings in Southport, and unrelated, she put out a horrifically racist post about Somalis. This is not someone who is, to use a phrase, whiter than white in terms of her public behaviour. But the key thing here is, to my mind, did what she do either lead to, or even worse, was it intended to lead to real-life violence? If it can be seen as purely rhetorical, then I think the sentence is very harsh. If, however, it is interpreted as an incitement to murder and the burning down of hotels, and, by the way, the murder of politicians, the murder of government ministers, then of course she needs to be punished.
I mean, she pleaded guilty to that incitement. Now, as she has said in that appeal, and I personally believe, I do not think that her intention was to genuinely incite violence. As I say, I think it was a horrible outburst, which she quickly realised was a mistake. And I really think in this country, you know, we had Charlie Kirk on the channel talking about the threshold in America, which is that in order to be done for inciting violence, you need to have specifically said a time and a place. If someone posted online, right guys, we're going to riot today, we're going to smash up this hotel and you need to be at this place at this time, that person absolutely should be held to account. But with our threshold in this country, and it makes people terrified to say anything online. It has a very chilling effect.
I don't feel terrified about what's saying online because I have a fairly good grasp of what the law of our land is, and that is all of our responsibilities. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. I hear what you say about that distinction, and I think it probably is quite an important distinction. However, part, as I say, of punishment is deterrence. And deterrence, when you have a public national crisis such as we faced last summer, where, as I say, families up and down the land were terrified. I happened to be, by the way, in Scotland working. My family was down in London. I was worried about my young family's safety, as I'm sure millions of other families may have been as well. The law has to take, and by the way, she's not a political prisoner. Keir Starmer wasn't on the phone to the judges. Oh, okay. You have to take a very robust stance to prevent rioting.
Right,
you know,
guys,
you don't believe in anarchy, do you, Lee?
No, I don't, Matthew. And look, we're going to have to call a close on it now. It's been a fascinating debate. I completely, I nearly agreed with something you said earlier, Matthew.
By the way, I don't think you should ever be subject to death threats or any threat of violence. Totally unacceptable. And anyone who were to threaten you, or indeed any other member of the House of Parliament, should be held to account.
Thanks, guys. That's a fascinating debate once again. Coming up next, we've got Real World, Real People with JP Wyndham.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, part of a Soviet-era spacecraft stranded in orbit for more than 50 years will crash back to Earth today.
Yes, Cosmos 482 launched in 1972 on a mission to Venus, but it failed to escape Earth's orbit and broke into 4 pieces.
Well, now experts are closely monitoring its re-entry, but where it will land remains a mystery.
It was due to land in, what is it, about 40 minutes now?
Yeah,
not long to go
like.
till we find out. Well, earlier we spoke to space expert Andy Land. He told us what makes this spacecraft different to the others we've seen previously.
Currently, it's over the South Pacific, so it's heading towards South America. The odds are really unlikely. The chances are it's going to crash into the ocean, to be quite honest. Other parts of this fell into the Pacific Ocean, although in the early days when it got into the wrong orbit, of course, the lower sections of it actually crashed into New Zealand and landed in a field. But no, I think you got more chance of being struck by lightning or winning the lottery than actually being hit by a piece of this material. The only interesting thing about this mission, of course, it is a Venus atmospheric entry probe, which means it's designed to survive entry through a dense atmosphere. And in particular case, Venus's atmosphere is more dense than the Earth's atmosphere. It's designed to withstand fantastic temperatures, absolutely fantastic temperatures, huge pressures. So this piece will hit the ground or hit into the ocean. That's what makes this a very different creature from previous satellites which have broken up, which normally they just break up into pieces. This is designed to actually come back. And in case people think, well, wouldn't the parachute system operate? It's unlikely the parachute system is operating at all after half a century. So it's going to be a ballistic drop.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns. Coming soon. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World. Let's find out what real people from the real world are thinking. We've got JP, John Paul.
Yes, please,
Linda,
John Paul, yeah. John.
So you are a hairdresser, barber, got your own shop, that's correct. Tell me, because I've always been intrigued by barbers. When I sit there having my short back and sides, which cost me about £9, I have it done once every 2 weeks. I think I'm being ripped off at £9, but hey-ho, it's a lot more expensive in this neck of the woods. How does a young man like yourself, when you're looking for your career, suddenly decide you're going to be a barber?
Oh, what a great question, Lee, and thanks very much for having me on your show. When I was young, I wanted to join the Royal Navy, but I found out later on that I was colourblind, and I thought, my goodness, what am I going to do? And a girlfriend at the time, her mum said, why don't you follow your dad into barbering and hairdressing? And at that point, I'd never even thought of it. My dad at the time had 5 shops and employed over 100 people, and I thought, yeah, why not? And I hadn't thought of it up until then. And I started working for my dad. He only had 1 shop at that time because he'd started to sell the business. And I really enjoyed it. And over time, as I was training, obviously my own friends came in and I became more confident in men's hairdressing. And my dad was a barber first of all, and I wanted to please him, and I went towards that way.
OK, so you sat there, behind the chair, snipping away with your scissors or whatever, or your shaver. You must build up some sort of relationship with your regular punters that come in, and I'm sure some of these tell you some stories.
Oh, some great stories.
Any great stories?
We have, our shop is a normal shop. We don't aim at a certain demographic. We have everybody come into our shop, and certainly in our barbers over the years, 30 years next year in the barbers alone. but the shop has been in Hornchurch for 50 years. We have had some great characters in. Sadly, the hardest part is actually when people pass away, because obviously those relationships that you have is brilliant, and obviously it builds up over time. If it's once a month people are coming in, you learn more about them than perhaps what their family know.
Yeah. So do you get any unusual requests? People coming out with ridiculous requests? Obviously when they come in with all linear, just a few wispy bits on the side, and they come in for a Tony Curtis or something like that.
Tony Curtis, now you're going back. Yeah, of course. I mean, the last person, say like Tony Curtis you spoke about, that dictated fashion was David Beckham. Yeah. I mean, anything he did, it was instantly. There hasn't been anyone like that since, really. But yeah, all sorts of things. You just make sure if he's paying, he or she, then that's up to them. But you make crystal clear that's definitely what they want.
We used to have a barber back in the day in my village in Huthwaite in Ashfield, Teddy Minnett, his name was. He knew one style, and that was, you went in, you could ask for a Tony Curtis, you could ask to look like Elvis, you'd come out with no hair on. Yeah, well, I only know two. I can do short or shorter. Yeah. If you could speak to, for example, the Chancellor of the Exchequer today, and you could ask her a question or give her some advice on how to help SMEs, small businesses, barbershops, what would you say to her?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I would ask her, what does she actually know? What is her experience of speaking to people or utilising small businesses on every high street? And we live in a fantastic country, and our high street is what makes it, whether that's the pubs, whether that's the hairdressers, it's the people in there making that community feel. Unfortunately, it is becoming harder and harder to make a living, to make ends meet. There's not... In COVID, we got into a lot of difficulties financially, my wife and I, and then the recovery of that was very difficult. And my father said to me, can you pay the rates and the staff and the rent? Bizarrely, the rent was to him. And I said, I can, Dad, but the problem is it's not just those three things anymore. It's that what appears to be tens of other bills on top of that standard. Government has made things too complicated, and that is stifling growth. Yeah, I suppose if Rachel Reeves was here right now, she would say that she engages with businesses and she takes their advice, and she's doing everything she can to grow the economy. But my experience, if I'm honest, I visit businesses every single week when I go back home to my constituency, and they are not happy at the moment. They are being stifled and not encouraged to grow and expand. Absolutely. I think Rachel Reeves would say lots of things, but say nothing at the end of it. Yeah. And that is the problem. We need people that say answer questions and say what needs to be said, really, and at least discuss things. Yeah, so how long does it take to train up to be a decent barber, do you think? Well, we just trained a young man up there. We trained him in a year, actually, and then he started cutting hair. But that's the difference, is once you're qualified, does that mean you can actually do the job? Because you're learning out over time the experience of different personalities. I would imagine for a young man, you yourself may be quite intimidating to cut your hair. Your physical presence, absolutely, the stature, but over time you learn the experience. Don't get me wrong. I've had a few arguments with barbers. I bet you have, yeah. I mean, we go back to Tony Curtis. There's an old joke in there about Tony Curtis. Of course, there's a great joke. There's a great joke about this. Do you want to tell it? Do you want to tell it? Well, of course, you can do that. Someone asked me this week about, I don't even know, he asked me about football, but let's say Tony Curtis. He said, can I have a Tony Curtis? So you do a cracking haircut and you show him the back and they say, Tony Curtis doesn't have it like that. He says he does if he comes here. Well, there you go. It's a great... I love that joke. It makes so do I. I think Lionel Blair once did an advert on that. Did he? Many years ago, yeah. But seriously, young men and young women coming into barbering now. And hairdressing. And hairdressing. What sort of wage can they make realistically? I think good money. Yeah. You know, you've got when you're employed, you've got your basic wage, which is obviously minimum wage. You've got commission, and then of course your tips, which adds a big part to it as well. Yeah. And we pay a different tax rate to those people that are subject to tips. Yeah. But you know, what's been most fortunate is recently we've just advertised for a new barber, and if I could have written down those credentials of someone that I would have, in a dream world, who I would have liked, I've found the right person.
Oh, good man.
And that person came to us. He's got his own studio, his own barbers in the back of someone's, in the garden of somewhere. But he wants to be employed. And that's a great example there of if you do things properly,
yeah,
you will pay dividends in the end, because he wants that security.
Yeah, and whilst if you can cut hair, you can put a pound in your pocket, can't you?
Not unless you have a lockdown. I mean, our trade was shut down for 9 months during COVID. And that's not funny, you know. The government, they said they paid 80% wages.
Yeah, we sent for some of those clippers from. Actually, they come from China, which I was annoyed about during lockdown, to cut my hair, and the wife cut my hair, and I looked like that North Korean leader. JP, Imperial Band. What's all that about? I read about that earlier. What's all that about?
Actually, that's very nice of you. Well, my dad was a very great man, and in 1990 he formed the Brentwood Imperial Youth Band, which is a musical youth charity for young people to get involved with. It's open door policy, music for all ethos, and it's grown into be one of the best marching bands in the world. In 2022, we was awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, and on the 17th of July this year, 100 of us will be marching from Wellington Barracks down Birdcage Walk to Horse Guards Parade to be the prelude for the Military Music Spectacular.
So your dad sounds like a great man, and he's left a great legacy.
I hope so. I hope he would be very proud.
JP, that's great.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next, we've got right versus left.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. All change for the weekend. Wet weather's moving in just in time for the bank holiday, but the long weekend won't be a complete write-off. Yes, there'll be plenty of showers around, but there'll also be some fine weather to be had. It's all about the timing. Now, these weather fronts are timing things beautifully this evening, bringing rain in for Friday night across most areas. Parts of the east still dry right now, but the rain will creep its way eventually into eastern Scotland and eastern England. Nothing too heavy, but it's going to be a much milder night compared to last night when we got down to -5 tonight. Many towns and cities holding in double digits, some places staying in the teens. So it won't be cold first thing, but it will be pretty grey, drab, dank, drizzly first thing on Saturday morning. The main area of rain will be heading its way out into the North Sea. It's going to not reach Shetland until tomorrow morning, but once it arrives here, it may well linger. Elsewhere, the rain will be moving away from Northern Ireland, so something a bit brighter, at least for a time, but showers will move in here following behind this main zone of rain. Also looking a little drier across Wales and southwest England, a soggy start for East Anglia and the southeast. But again, that rain will be moving out into the North Sea, so generally through the day, it's going to get drier during the morning and eventually might even brighten up. Parts of northeast England, East Midlands, parts of East Wales may well see some decent spells of sunshine. It could just spark 1 or 2 heavy showers over East Anglia and the southeast, particularly northeast Scotland and Northern Ireland, but they'll be very hit and miss. Many places avoiding those, but more showers always come into western areas where it will be cooler. But in the east, in the sunshine, quite warm, quite humid, could get to 21, maybe even 22 Celsius. A fresher feel for Sunday, gusty day across northern areas, particularly in western Scotland. Really blustery here with lots of showers, but elsewhere, not too many showers. And much of the Midlands, eastern and southern England looking dry and fine. It'll be breezy, it will feel fresher, but temperatures closer to average with maybe getting up to 20 or 21.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time for right versus left, or when Matthew Stadlin's on, it's right versus wrong most of the time.
Right
but anyway,
right versus
well,
correct.
we don't know. Look, Sir Keir Starmer, he's walking around Parliament again with his chest pumped out, his shoulders back, looking really, really chipper and proud of himself. He thinks he's doing good trade deals around the world. Some people think he's the laughingstock. Just last week, guys, he was laughed out of Albania by the Albanians over his stance on illegal migration.
I think Eddie Rama was laughing at him, wasn't he?
I was laughing at him.
Well, I was laughing.
And
he's come back, he's got this trade deal with India, which I think is a bit of a capitulation. The EU deal, which he agreed to, I think, 2 days before they actually signed anything. And Chloe, is this man a good negotiator, or is it a case of the Prime Minister going to market and coming back with 5 magic beans?
He is definitely not a good negotiator. I am terrified for the future of this country with that weakling, Keir Starmer, in charge, negotiating for us. Now, the spin doctors are at it best they can to try and make it look like, well, as they say, Britain is back on the world stage because, I mean, Keir Starmer's hit a new all-time low in his approval ratings. I mean, the polling is just absolutely disgraceful. They're desperate to do something that they can boast about. So they've got these deals over the table with the US, India, and now the EU. Not a whole lot has been agreed. They're acting as though this whole deal is done and dusted, but there are a lot of things where there are all these question marks saying, oh, we're going to pay you some money for this, but we don't know how much yet, or in principle we'll do this, but we'll talk about this later. I think that we are very much on the road to Brexit betrayal in this deal, and this is what happens when you have a cabinet full of Ramonas, many of whom campaigned for a second referendum, running the country. They don't understand the essence of Brexit. They look at their numbers and say, oh, this will bring in a bit of extra money for the economy. They don't think about the implications and the fury it's going to cause amongst the public who voted for Brexit. They're red wall voters. If they've got any left, they're not going to be voting for them anymore. Because people voted for Brexit because they wanted autonomy in this country. They didn't want to follow EU rules. And now we're going to be following EU rules in what they call dynamic alignment, whilst not actually having a say at the negotiating table. We're potentially going to be having the ECJ getting involved, telling all our farmers and whatnot what to do. I think this is a disaster. And don't get me started on the India deal as well. That was...
yeah, go on, talk about the India deal. Go on. He's ready to pipe in, Matthew.
I know, I've seen it.
Get your 10 pence worth in first,
Matthew's
Chloe.
getting all excited. This India deal, OK, sure, we've got lower tariffs on things like whiskies and whatnot. OK, great. But I think this deal was in the pipeline for a long time, and India thought, oh, we'll wait before we close this deal. We'll wait until Keir Starmer gets in, because then we can push and get a little bit more, because he's a weak negotiator. So we'll have all our Indian businesses and Indian workers not having to pay any national insurance in Britain, which is just, if you ask me, a huge middle finger up to the working Brits in this country.
A middle finger, Matthew.
Will have to pay their taxes.
The social security stuff relating to Indian businesses, that's not new. That's been going on with other countries outside the EU for a while. The idea that we are going back into the EU, or that this is some sort of Brexit betrayal, is utter nonsense. It's a figment of the imagination, the fevered imagination of the right-wing press. No customs union, no single market, no freedom of movement. If you want...
And no say.
Actually, it says, if you look at the deal, it says that we do have a say. We are able to contribute our views on this. We would have had a bigger say, of course, if we'd stayed in the European Union.
When has the EU ever listened to us? They're bullies. I mean, look at how the Brexit negotiations went, painstaking for years and years, absolute bullies, and Keir Starmer's given in to the bullies now.
If you want a test of whether this deal with the EU is good for Britain or not, you can either listen to Chloe and Nigel Farage, or you can listen to British industry, you can listen to British small businesses, you can listen to the Meat Processing Association or whatever it is, you can listen to British supermarkets, you can listen to the Blind Dog Association, I think.
That's all well and good,
No, well, that's just hard reality. What we want is we want British businesses to thrive. We all want to be a bit better off, ideally a lot better off. Keir Starmer is not a weak negotiator. He gets even more abuse than I do online,
I don't believe that.
And yet he just carries on trying to do what he thinks is in the national interest. I think he is a strong chap. Yes, I can't deny that he's unpopular at the moment, but there is 4 years to come, and if he makes
and that's the scary part.
And if he makes us better off, if he drives down waiting lists, then I think there's a good chance we'll have another
I would have
government.
put the words Keir Starmer and strongman in the same sentence.
Well, not strong man in terms of populist. He's strong in terms of determined, hard-working, like to his credit, Nigel
Determined. He's got
and getting on with the national interest.
Starmer for a reason. He changes his mind and toes back on all of his promises. I mean, how many election promises were made before the general election, which have now been rolled back? Now,
what?
Like
fuel payment.
No tax rises, no tax rises and all sorts. I mean, how many? I mean, just go on Twitter and you'll find a million compilation
Can we not use Twitter? Can we not use Twitter as our barometer? We're on a very serious national TV.
The good thing with Twitter is people will dig out all of the old clips of what Keir Starmer has said in the past. And I think it is okay for politicians to rightly change their mind on things sometimes, but he just seems like he will go whatever way the wind. His island of stranger speech that has been so
you say about the wind
controversial.
blowing. He has made this deal in the teeth of the right-wing press, in the teeth of right-wing commentators such as yourself and right-wing politicians such as Lee Anderson. He is determined to try and make this country better, and we will find out in 4 years whether he's succeeded.
I think we've found out already.
Make this country better. What, we're all going to be 500.
The thing is, Chloe, the EU, they don't like us very much, in my opinion. Keir Starmer's been dragged in. He's been a very naughty boy. And they've told him to take this or leave it, and he's took it because he's a weak negotiator, he's a weak Prime Minister, and people in my neck of the woods, and you can shake your head all you want, Matthew, get out in the real world, get off of Twitter, where you live most of the time.
I spend my life in the real world. I'm up and down the country. I do events up and down the country and meet people all across Britain.
In the real world, and you'll get a completely different attitude.
Depends who you talk to.
Right, let's just look at, if we look at
the real people who voted in Labour. The real people who voted in Labour on a landslide, Lee.
Let's just look at his negotiating skills when it comes to the fishing. The UK went in asking for 4 years, thinking, oh, the EU we might have to push to 6 or 7, and they've come out accepting 12 years. What kind of negotiation skills
had already
do you call
negotiated
that?
At the same time,
that was a 4-year transition. That was a 4-year transition.
The Tories negotiated.
It's coming to an end.
It's coming to an end next January.
It's now going to go on until 2038.
No, I'm not defending the Tories, but that was a 4-year deal which ends next January, and he's just extended it by 12 years. He's basically
certainty.
He's given our fishing stock away.
In the real world.
He's given our fishing stock away to the French and Spanish, who will, guess what? They'll sell it back to us.
Sorry, what's this show called? Lee, what's this show called? This is called Lee Anderson's Real World. And in the real world, you know as well as I do, because you've been around the block a bit as well, that if you want a deal, you don't get something for nothing. The EU was always going to want something, and if we didn't give them anything, we wouldn't have had better access for our businesses. And as I say, you look at the ledger, you've got Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch and Chloe and you on one side, we've got the real world on the other side.
You know what, mate, you need to get in the real world. Anyway, it's time for the yes or no quiz. And Chloe, you know the rules.
Yeah.
Matthew's a stickler on this. He's pretty good at it. He's very, very competitive. You're going to Nottingham, are you? There's very soon to watch the cricket.
Yes.
I will warn my friends, family and constituents that you are going up there. Anyway, number one, Chloe, is Starmer a good leader?
No.
Yes.
Matthew, is the new EU deal a good deal?
Yes.
No.
Number three, Chloe, should Lucy Connolly be released?
Yes.
Matthew?
No.
Matthew, is there a world where Matthew Stadlen joins Reform UK? You'll have to, that's a tick. No, it's a tick. No, I can't give you that. No. Chloe?
No.
No.
He wouldn't be let in.
You've got to be strict. This is the quiz of the week. And Chloe, you've got to get this right, and you've beat him. Trust me. Should the House of Lords be scrapped?
No.
No. Hang on a second. You can't. Sorry, a laugh is not a word. A laugh is not a word.
The Quizmaster's decision is final. You're a poor loser, Matthew.
Get out into the real world, Lee.
Thank you.
It's 5-4. He doesn't like that. I mean,
for laughing,
mate.
This is supposed to be prime time entertainmentally, and you're punishing me for laughing.
Look, rules is rules.
This is
rules
not the rule. Whoever said
if
that laughing was excluded from the yes/no game?
If Keir Starmer,
congratulations on your victory.
If Keir Starmer was the quizmaster right now, you'd be leaving the building because it's shocking behaviour. But yeah, Matthew said. We spoke about Lucy Connolly earlier.
Revisit that.
Let's revisit that. You said she should not be released, even though you thought...
Well, of course she should be released at some point.
You thought the sentence was harsh.
Yeah, and under the... I'm sorry, I know we've got to have strong opinions, but I'm not convinced I was right in saying she shouldn't be released. I would like her to be released. I think the tweet was appalling, and I think, as I said, that if she had intended... and if it was taken as a genuine incitement to murder, then no, she shouldn't be released yet. But I'm slightly on the side of thinking it was rhetorical, really, rather than go and murder these people. And therefore, under those circumstances, I think she should now be released.
Serious point, Chloe. Is there a world where Matthew Stadlen joins Reform UK? Or would we have him?
Well, I said
our standards are pretty... Would he pass the vetting process?
Sorry, I said to Nigel Farage last time I was on TV with him, and I said, if you become Prime Minister, make sure you make me your head of comms. And guess what? He laughed. Humour's importantly, and I should not have been punished for it.
But we all love humour, but the rules in the yes or no quiz are no hesitation.
Guys, that's a great end. Well done, Chloe, for winning in the yes or no quiz. Commiserations to our very poor loser, Matthew Stadlen. But coming up next, we've got Frank Sinatra impersonator David Allison.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
There's the chance of a little bit of light rain in Sicily over the course of the weekend. Small chance of some showers in Mallorca as well. Plenty of sunshine for Greece. That should continue for the next few days. We've seen some wet weather across Croatia recently, but the showers here are also clearing. There's that thicker cloud and patchy rain that may affect Sicily. 1 or 2 showers for Mallorca and Menorca. Small chance of a shower or 2 in southern Spain as well. But generally Spain and Portugal and the Canaries set fair with plenty of sunshine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, that sounds like last orders at the bar. Very special guest tonight on the show, David Alisey. You've also got a character that you go into, which is Frank Sinatra, part of the old Rat Pack.
Absolutely.
So tell me, mate, how did you become a Frank Sinatra impersonator tribute act?
Well, I was a fan. I mean, that's the strange thing. My parents took me to see him live. I got to see him live twice.
Wow.
In 1990 and 92, his final two appearances here in the UK. And I was mesmerised by this older guy, but still captivating an audience. The first time was at London Arena, Frank Warren's London Arena, and there was 10,000 people in there. And at the time, I was training to be an actor. And then back then you needed an equity card to work.
Yes, you did, didn't you? Yeah.
To work in the business, you needed
a union card, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It was a union card. And the easiest way was to form a variety act. And I'd just seen Sinatra, and I thought, right, that's what I'll base my act on.
You've got to be able to sing a bit to do a Frank Sinatra act.
Well, I had trained. I mean, even though at stage school my singing teacher said he'll never make it as a singer, he's terrible. And he was right.
What did they know?
But
but Frank Sinatra, he was not only a great singer, but a great actor as well. And one of my favourite films, me and my old schoolmate, Nogger, if you're watching this, one of our favourite films is the Von Ryan's Express. And every time you watch it, you think, go on, you're going to get on the train, don't you? Keep running.
He never
great actor, though, weren't he?
He was, he won an Oscar. And one of the few singers that were able to cross over, really, that was the magic of Sinatra, that he wasn't just a singer, he was a great actor as well. And, there's all of that, the politics he was involved in, the mafia. It's all linked to, and it creates that Sinatra.
I mean, this mafia thing, I don't think it's as true as what people make out. It was a bit of a standing joke in the industry. And one chap that used to highlight this a lot was the comedian Don Rickles.
Don Rickles, of course, yeah. He was able to get away with a lot, particularly with Sinatra. Sinatra wouldn't have allowed other people to joke in that way about him, but he allowed Rickles. They were very close.
Yeah, I watch some of these roasting sessions, and I'm quite sad sometimes at the weekend when I try and just chill out. I watched the Don Rickles roasting sessions with Frank Sinatra, with Dean Martin, with some of the proper old stars of the 50s, 60s and 70s. Like you say, he'd probably get cancelled today.
Of course he would, and we're in a different, Rickles, Alan King, they were all abrasive in their comedy. And certainly nowadays they wouldn't get away with it, unfortunately.
So are you touring at the moment?
Yes, I am. I'm with the Rat Pack live from Las Vegas. Las Vegas Live. We're playing Bridge North at the end of May. We're playing Eastbourne in June. The Pheasantry here in London in July. Derbyshire in July.
Whereabouts in Derbyshire are you going?
We're playing Chatsworth Arts Centre.
It's not far from me.
Yeah, so come along. You'll have to come.
Come along and get some. I won't get free tickets. I'll pay for it. But I'll have a look at that. But what is it about this like swing type music, this Rat Pack music? What is it that it sort of makes it timeless? And people now, like 50 years, 60 years on, are still listening to the same songs.
Well, fortunately, it keeps getting reinvented. When I started out, nobody was really doing the music. The Sinatra was still around, but nobody was really doing the music. Then Robbie Williams came along and changed the audience. Overnight, we had young people in the audience, which was great. And we were playing universities, which we didn't think of. And then Michael Bublé came along, Rod Stewart did so. it keeps
They
evolving.
do, don't they? Some of these modern stars, they put it in their act, don't they?
Yeah, it keeps evolving.
Yeah,
which is
and
great.
sometimes some of these young ones will play this song, and I think, well, I was listening to that, you know, 40 years ago. It's not a new song. It's a cover song.
But it's certainly good for my career when they do it.
So I'll ask you this question, David. Obviously, you're massively into music. If you could sit round the dinner table tonight and have 3 singers, past or present, to have dinner with, who would it be? Obviously, Frank Sinatra.
Well, Sinatra would be one. I've always loved Liza Minnelli as a performer. So I think she would be quite fascinating with her links, you know, her mum, Judy Garland. The third one would be Billy Joel.
Billy Joel?
Yeah, who I think as a songwriter is, you know, incredible, and I've managed to see him live.
And of course, he's still going, isn't he?
He's still going just about.
Yeah.
I had tickets to see him this year, but unfortunately he's pulled out due to ill health, but he'll be back next
And who's
year.
the most famous pop star you've ever met?
I've met Frank Jr. I never got to meet Frank Sinatra. I met his son. There's been so many over the years.
We've got a pint pot there, David.
Okay.
You know the score. You've got to pull a pint, the old neck oil in 30 seconds, which is that one.
Right. Here we
Have
go.
you pulled a pint before?
Never.
No, we'll see then.
I've been behind bars, but...
What kind of bars, though?
Only this sort, unfortunately.
Pull a pint in 30 seconds. That's it. A bit more wrist action, my friend. That's it.
Okay.
Keep it coming. And then when you plonk it on the bar, there you go. That's it. Get some froth up. Put that on the bar, young man. It's dreadful, isn't it? Really?
That's dreadful, yes.
I mean,
yes, look at that.
Yeah, it's. I'd stick to the day job.
I think
I'd
so.
stick to the day
I think
job.
so.
But tell me, I mean, you've been doing this for quite a few years now, haven't you? This tribute act. You must make a good living out of it. But what a great job to have, where you're actually, you're celebrating your musical hero, and you get to play him on the stage every night. It must be brilliant.
I still think I'm very lucky. You know, when I started, I had 2 career choices: to be a politician. And I did take that route, but that's another story.
How far did you get?
I was a county councillor and a borough councillor for 15 years.
Whereabouts?
In Basildon.
Basildon?
Yeah. And I swapped parties, unfortunately, during that time. So
I've been there as well. I've been there as well. I've been called a few names for doing that.
Yes, I was. So
I've never changed. I believe in certain principles. I've stuck to 3 different parties in my area, and every time the public in my area voted for me.
Exactly.
Same people have put their cross at the side of my name.
That is it.
And my vote share at the last general election actually went up.
Yeah.
So that tells you all you need to know.
It's whether you're doing a good job for the voters, the electorate, and I was, it seems, for 15 years, and then it ended. But I ran it parallel with being a performer.
I think
there is a performer. You're performing now.
You see, musicians, performers, whatever, they can end on a high.
Yeah.
But it's not very often that a politician ends on a high, is it? Even prime ministers.
No, even prime ministers, and I think the electorate tell you when it's over, but then audiences tell you when it's over if they don't come to see the show anymore. I think Bruce Forsyth once said, the audience will tell me when I've got to retire because. Yeah. And I think it's the same.
I think there is some, like you said, there is some that carry it on a little bit too long. I've been looking at the what's his name? Frankie.
Frankie Valli.
Frankie Valli. I mean,
who was a marvelous.
Oh, what a great voice!
He was a marvelous.
Well, I've seen you singing on YouTube, David. I'll give you 10 out of 10 for your singing. But that pint pot, mate, I'll give you 2 out of 10. It's pathetic. Stick to the day job.
I'll start practicing.
And hopefully I can see you in Chatsworth.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's David Alisay, Frank Sinatra tribute act. What a great guy. Thank you for joining me on Lee Anderson's Real World. It's been another great show with some great guests. Coming up next, we've got State of the Nation.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. All change for the weekend. Wet weather's moving in just in time for the bank holiday, but the long weekend won't be a complete write-off. Yes, there'll be plenty of showers around, but there'll also be some fine weather to be had. It's all about the timing. Now, these weather fronts are timing things beautifully this evening, bringing rain in for Friday night across most areas. Parts of the east still dry right now, but the rain will creep its way eventually into eastern Scotland and eastern England. Nothing too heavy, but it's going to be a much milder night compared to last night when we got